This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the carnage. Hey, you're listening to Trigger Warnings, Challenging Talk Radio with radical empathy at its core. I'm Chris Smith, and John Ross is on the line.
Hello from the carnage capital of America. Nice to see you.
He is on the line from the carnage capital of America. Are you inside of your electric car?
I am inside my hybrid car. Yes, where I am safe. I am in a bulletproof bubble. I'm safe, and I'm very upset because I got held out of the White House briefing yesterday. So I'm really just protesting.
Why did you get held back from the White House briefing yesterday?
Because I'm in the capital of American carnage.
And they discriminate against?
They're like, well, the Chicago Tribune was left out, as was Politico, as was all the Chicago Tribune family of papers, the LA Times, etc. So I didn't get in. Very upset.
Which two media outlets were invited to the exclusive press gaggle, but stayed out in solidarity?
Yes, I saw that. The Wall Street Journal said had it known that was going on, it would have bowed out. Was it the Associated Press?
It was the Associated Press, yes, and the other was?
It wasn't NBC or ABC because they both attended, but I don't think they knew anybody else was left out.
No, it was Time Magazine. Time Magazine was invited, but chose to not participate, as did the Associated Press.
That's right. And the interesting is that the Associated Press was even invited because the Associated Press broke the story about the Priebus trying to get the FBI to deflect the Russia story. And because they couldn't get the FBI to do it, the Washington Post reported that they got high-ranking intelligence officials, including the chairs of the two intelligence committees that are presumably objectively investigating the Russia thing. So we need to have kind of I think we need to add an award for this. Perhaps there will be an award in today's show for some of the people involved in these stories. So it's amazing that the Associated Press was invited after it broke that big story, but maybe they didn't break it. No, they broke it Thursday night, so who knows? I don't know.
Who does know anymore? How do we know? It's all fake news.
It's all fake news.
The president, I am still on the president's campaign email list, and I am still getting emails as if the campaign is happening, and I need your help, and I need you to help me get the real information to the people. The president is saying in emails. I can't believe that. That's amazing.
Yes, I know. I saw. Well, I get those too, but they're in my spam folder.
Well, I get them not in my spam folder, and then I send them to you because I figure you have not seen them.
Yeah, I think they were in my spam folder, and I don't. Yeah. I have a spam folder for the real fake news. And now BuzzFeed is reporting as we speak that churches around the country are organizing their own kind of
Underground Railroad. Underground Railroad?
Yeah, the Underground Railroad, because they realize that there are There have been, as you shared with me last week, there have been raids made on people coming out of church on Sunday morning by ICE.
That's right. And on a previous program, we discussed ICE's sensitive areas memo, and that is, we will not do immigration raids in places or houses of worship. However, they did such a thing right across the street. So on a previous program, scroll back here on this YouTube channel, and you too can be privy to that conversation. John, will faith communities step up?
Well, I mean, this is very much like the original Underground Railroad, where faith communities stepped up, where they organized, that were core foundations of the abolitionist movement, especially in New England and the Mid-Atlantic. So there's no reason to believe they won't do that now. What's very interesting is there is a big Latino demonstration here today in America's carnage capital, protesting against Trump. And my wife, who, as you know, is a proud Latina, is going off to that thing. And I said, you really need to watch out, because this would be a perfect place for raid. Not that she's going to get raided, but that there was a story this week here that the Mexican or not officially the Mexican consulate in Chicago, but the many agencies that that work with the Mexican consulate here in Chicago for migrant and refugee aid, et cetera, are advising people, Mexicans, not to open their door to someone they do not recognize and not to sign any papers. So, a large demonstration through downtown Chicago today would not be a surprising place for ICE, not ICE raiding the necessarily the demonstration itself, but collecting people as they disseminate. So there's no reason to think that this will be any different. There's been some very interesting stories this week because the Secretary of State went down to Mexico this week to try to work things out with the Mexicans, who are very upset about the wall and other things. And what's interesting is if you look at the real data, we have fewer immigrants coming from Mexico than we had. We have about the same as we had 10 years ago. The numbers have been going down the last couple of years, and in fact, the so-called anchor babies, those numbers are down. In fact, Mexico is now the third, according to the Pew Research Center, the third largest source of children born to unregistered immigrants, third to China and India. And what the Mexican government is very legitimately arguing is, wait a minute, you're talking about building a wall between Mexico and the United States. Mexico is the wall between Central America and the United States. Mexico is getting a lot of these people who are refugees from the drug trade and gangs and horrible governing from Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, El Salvador. Our government is going after the Mexicans, but the Mexicans are really dealing with their own southern border issue. And it's just, it just gets curiouser and curiouser.
Yes, it does.
Don't you think?
I agree. And certainly this week, it has become clear that we, the American public, may or may not have access to clear and relevant and true information. I mean, every week since the inauguration, it seems like that has become heightened. But this week, it is really starting to foment because people don't have access to good information, they're starting to act differently, I think.
The administration keeps finding new enemies to make, and it's not like they're going after Democrats, because Democrats are a good enemy to have. They're the opposition party. But, I believe we talked about this last week. Trump has gone after and made three very distinct sets of enemies, and all of them are getting him. The courts, the media, the intelligence community. Yesterday, he's added a fourth. He's added the FBI to that. When the administration is trying to get the director of the FBI to go public in deflecting or denying a part of a story about the administration or the Trump campaign's contact with certain Russians, whether they're government officials, intelligence officers, or people whose jobs and identities the government doesn't know, and then they won't do it. I mean, the FBI is already in a lot of trouble, and Comey himself. It's amazing that the president keeps coming up with more and more enemies to appeal to his base, because they're all going to get him. They're all going to get him either by doing their jobs, as they're doing, or by going above and beyond to do their job. And, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. I think, yeah.
Well, an article came out this week, and we're not going to parse through it here. But in the New Yorker, Trump, Putin, and the New Cold War. John, I know you've read it.
81 pages, yes, 81 pages.
Yeah, it's an extensive article, and I would recommend all of our listenership pursue that article, yes? Would you agree?
Absolutely, because it goes into how what happened during the campaign is just the tip of the iceberg. That it's all part of a very strategically directed propaganda effort to destabilize the West, to destabilize faith, confidence in Western institutions. And in fact, I believe people in that article, or those commenting in the article, and I forget exactly who it was, and I shouldn't have done that, but said that we are in danger of losing the second Cold War.
Once again, Trump, Putin, and the New Cold War, an article that just emerged in the New Yorker. What I really appreciated, it didn't use the term psyops, but when it comes to psyops, psychological operations inside of a larger frame of warfare, and how, well, when your enemy is destroying themselves, don't do a darn thing. And how did those philosophical tenets of war play into how Russia wanted us to have our election? And what buttons they had to push, and which buttons they did not, and were being pushed by themselves anyway. It's an incredible article, so I would recommend everybody read it. I don't think anyone should speak of those issues until everybody in the country has read it, and we can move on from there.
And we get 10% on every New York subscription sold.
We do? We do?
And the other story, whose depth of disgust was confirmed yesterday, which may or may not have something to do with Russia, has to do with the fearless or the dear or the able leader's modus operandi for killing his half-brother, which was a particularly horrific. This is Korea, North Korea.
Okay.
This is an absolutely horrific case of lethal agents being used to assassinate someone, and having it be played, at least the way it was reported, as kind of a joke, that the person who was recruited to do this thought she was on some kind of, reality show type of project where she was supposed to spray some funny ha-ha in Kim's stepbrother's face, and it turned out to be a horrifically lethal agent. that killed him rather not immediately, but rather painfully. And God knows if it gets traced to where that story came from. But we're not suggesting that it has anything to do with Putin. It's just that there are so many horrific stories out there, stories that are either just really gross and disgusting, from cases like that to just awful cases of murders in America's carnage capital, where I sit right now, and everything in between, that get completely obliterated by some of the stupidity and the just the willful stupidity and ignorance of people in Washington.
And where can I find the North Korea story that you're referencing?
I have to. Well, I believe it is sourced this week, today, in many publications. I could look that up and send it to you, but it's in all the major sources of fake news.
Send it to all of us. We're here, and we are Trigger Warnings, Radical Empathy, Challenging Talk Radio. Follow us on Twitter at @T_warnings. I'm Chris Smith here in the high desert. John Ross is in the carnage capital of America. And here on today's program, well, tomorrow, what's the big event, John?
The Topeka, Kansas Barley Festival, I believe.
That's right. That's right. Roll out the red carpet. All of your favorite and my favorite Hollywood elites will be gaggling together at Grauman's Chinese Theater. Isn't that where they have it? Or it's like somewhere there? Or
No, now it's a Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. It's now in a real theater, and it's in a politically correct theater, because it can't be in a Chinese theater anymore.
Oh, I see.
It would have to be in a Far East Asian appearing theater, and that's just too long for the television graphics, so they had to move it to a shorter theater.
We're going to lighten up here. I mean, there's not much more to say besides go read the New Yorker's article about Russia. Go seek knowledge from places that you believe it to be available in. We are going to talk about two of our favorite movies, favorite political movies, and in fact, we have a set of awards to deliver. The first annual Trigger Warnings Radical Empathy Awards. We could come up with a better name. Maybe it's the Academy of Radical Empathy or something.
That would be good. Yeah, we could have an academy. It could be called the Academy of Radical Empathy.
Excellent. Well, here on the first annual R Awards, no laugh track, no applause button, but we did have a list of movies going, like brainstorming movies, and the two that we settled on, well, I mean, they're kind of similar. Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life and Patty Chayefsky's Network.
It was hard for us to get down to just these two, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where we were headed, and the conversation bubbled and fomented. And now I did do some research, and I found some famous people talking about these films. And I mean, you could take our word for it, but nothing says it's true like famous people. And the first one, which article should we talk about briefly and quickly and first, John?
You mean which film?
Yeah, which film?
I thought, given that we may have to explain why It's a Wonderful Life we view as a political film, I think we should probably start with Network, which is, I think, explicitly a commentary on the political media industrial complex.
Yes. The movie Network, 1976. Hey, I found an article by Dave Itzkoff. Now, he's the guy that would write the book Network, Mad as Hell, and that came out a few years ago, and that kind of helped this movie have a resurgence in popularity. The New York Times, however, in their libtard wisdom, got Dave Itzkoff to talk to Stephen Colbert about the movie Network. Stephen Colbert on Network, great film or the greatest film. And just a good quote from that interview. Why did Network hit it on the head so well? Stephen Colbert, quote, "I will tell you what to think." That's what it prefigures most of all. I will tell you what to think and how to feel. Beale is doing it in a quasi-benevolent way, which I'm going to remind you is that you're being anesthetized right now. That's what they get right in terms of what you see on TV. That is a great bulk of what happens with news now. And not just the nighttime people that I'm sort of a parody of, not just the opinion-making people, but even what is left of straight news. Howard Beale is a precursor of people who are telling you how to feel. That's what they get right. You agree, John?
Well, agree. And, this falls into what in the ivory tower they refer to as agenda setting among the media. Are we allowed to get into that? Or is that too academic? I mean, the idea
sure. Everybody loves a good agenda. What's your agenda?
The idea. My agenda is. I don't have an agenda today. But the idea of agenda setting is that there is no such thing as pure objectivity or lack of bias in the media, and therefore the media determine and place and locate certain stories or certain issues with prime attention, whether it's a newspaper, the front page, or the first cycle before the first commercial on television or what have you. That therefore, because a story or perspectives on stories are put at prime locations and prime attention, and the brain works on having information pumped into it regularly and reminded of the same information, that those stories and perspectives on those stories will rise to the surface. So, you could use this argument about Benghazi from a Republican perspective. You could use it about the corruption in Trump's White House from a liberal perspective, et cetera. And in fact, I would argue that in our 24/7 social media-driven media, most of us function on an agenda-setting agenda where we intentionally seek out certain topics or articles or perspectives above all others, almost in many cases to the exclusion of contradictory or alternative perspectives.
Isn't the gig up, though? I feel like the gig might be up. I agree. I mean, there are certainly heaps of broadcasters that are trying to get me to believe what they want, and through a matter of repetition of similar themes, whether it's a birth certificate or Benghazi, whatever that is, or whatever you want to do, there's going to be broadcasters that are using that kind of repetition to create their own version of PSYOPs within 23 minutes.
Right.
But isn't the gig up? I wonder if that only carried weight for so long. People fully understand that when they tune into somebody like Bill O'Reilly, they are not getting straight news, but in fact being told what to think. I don't know how many more decades we can put up with cultural figures like that before we start to understand we're being told what to think. And maybe people are cool with that. Maybe that's the assumption that I'm not really grabbing onto.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you could easily extend that argument to just about any media actor or personality. And it's why the Fox News marketing brand of "We Report, You Decide" is so brilliant in its cynical way. Is that, well, we're not going to decide for you. We're just going to we're going to front load certain stories and perspectives that are finely tuned to what we believe our audience looks like, and carefully link them to other products and programs in the corporate family. And every network does this to keep you not only a viewer of our network or of our station, but of a consumer of other programs that people like you are likely to enjoy on other families in our network, whether it's Fox or anything else, and consumers of the advertisers, the products of the advertisers, who very carefully use psychodynamics research to figure out what the Fox family or the MSNBC or the CNN family viewer consumer is. So by the way,
but the term "fair and balanced" is done. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they can say "We Report, You Decide." They can say whatever they want, but I really can't believe that they think for the next 4 or 8 or 16 years they're going to be able to hang their hat on just the self-proclamation of being fair and balanced. I really don't think so.
Well, in fact, what's very interesting is that the way Fox News and other partisan leaning or outright partisan media operations work is when their candidates win, it tends not to be good for business.
Right.
That they tend to do better when their perspective, when their audience is the opposition. This is happening now across whether you believe they're mainstream or left-leaning media. Periodicals on the left, The Nation, a lot of these periodicals, but as well as cable, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Saturday Night Live, they are enjoying significant upticks in their audience, their readership, their advertising base, their profit. Whereas Fox tended to do better. Certainly when it launched, it was during the Clinton years, and that was very good for business for getting launched. And Fox did very well in the Obama years. That when your media outlet represents the perspectives of those viewers and politicians associated with the opposition, it's very good for business. So you spend a lot of time trolling and campaigning essentially for your candidate. But if your candidate wins, it's actually not that good for business because people in power, are the status quo, even if they're trying to change things.
Interestingly, Stephen Colbert mentions in this 2011 New York Times article on the Film Network, he mentions Glenn Beck and how Stephen Colbert was listening to Glenn Beck on the radio. Quote, "I thought this guy's got something here, but he's not quite focused. He's always arguing both sides towards the middle, the fill airtime behavior that you hear a lot on talk radio. And then he's got his television show, and he had to focus and do a single hour, and I thought he's really got his game now. He's got one thing, and he's going to ride that pony till it's dead. Then he's going to the next pony, but always riding in the same direction." I think that's a wonderful description of why media is still being the distrust of the Fourth Estate is mounting, and I don't just mean in the Brady briefing room.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Beck. I think it's safe to say that Beck, and Beck having been a Democrat in his younger days, a self-professed progressive, depending on what angle you take on it. If the money had been there for Glenn Beck to be a populist media star of the left, if there had been money in that, I think he would have done it. But clearly, there wasn't the money for that based on who listens to radio and who participates in talk radio. The same for Rush Limbaugh. And, a lot of people would argue that the popularity of Colbert and Jon Stewart, and in fact, Jon Stewart, who's, been off his show for a couple of years, but Jon Stewart, for more than 1 year in recent American history, was voted the most trusted newsman in America, and he's not a newsman. And I think a lot of the popularity of those folks, again, had there been a market for something that was not catering to, the left of center audience, or in Colbert's case, somebody who was posing as a right of center person, catering to a perceived left of center audience, they would have done it. I mean, it is a business. And the thing about network that is so enduring, as a film and as a social, political, cultural, and media commentary, is that it really shows before 24/7 cable, before the internet, before social media, before pop-up ads, before, if you like this show, you're going to love this cookbook, intelligent, internet. It said, this is a business, and this is how this business works. And it's all about numbers. And, that's what's so brilliant about network. And that news, as historically a loss leader, news does not make money. And in the era of only 3 networks, it was okay for Walter Cronkite, John Chancellor, Frank Reynolds to lose money because they were they were part of news departments whose profit and loss was essentially factored into a broader public trust. It doesn't work that way anymore. And network foreshadows that reality because it wasn't really a financial corporate reality 40 years ago when that film was produced. And the other thing network does really brilliantly that a lot of people don't give it credit for is network forecasts the absolute profit and loss worth of so-called reality show programming. I mean, staging a live assassination on a primetime news show, as happens in network, as a means of getting rid of somebody whose ratings have tanked, is not very far from some of the stuff that goes on in so-called reality shows today.
Well, don't forget, Diana Christensen floats the idea of the Mao Zedong Hour because she's got a group of violent individuals that are willing to not only rob banks, but use a film camera while they rob the bank to collect visual, evidence for air later on television.
Which is exactly what Patty Hearst did as a member of the Symbionese Liberation Army in 1974, 75, 76, while Network came out in 76 or 70, it came out a little later, right?
76. 76.
Yeah, so that was going on and making the front pages of newspapers because an heiress to one of the wealthiest families in America was a celebrity terrorist and bank robber. So, that was happening.
And I always felt like the show Cops was one of the initial forays into reality television. And I don't know, I would only know this because I happen to have cable where I'm living currently. And on Saturday nights, a certain cable program airs a live version of Cops. Now, they're actually live on location with cops in 4 different American cities because they don't know what's going to happen next. So they're just kind of hobbling together, literally a live program from 4 different cities across America, and you're riding along with law enforcement. It's as close to the film network.
One of them must be the Carnage capital of America.
Well, every week I believe you get a different city.
Oh, okay.
Or a different setup. By the way,
according to the article I sent you a few minutes ago from the Associated Press, the chemical that killed President Kim's half-brother was ZX nerve toxin.
Oh, no.
Yes. A quote from a defense expert at the very well-established and respected RAND Corporation. An expert on North Korea says...
You know what? I'm going to get more coffee. Wait a minute. You read your quote. I'm getting more coffee.
Hi, this is Jon in Chicago. I have the airwaves all to myself. This is a quote from an expert with the RAND Corporation who studies North Korea. He said, "This agent is not something you make in a kitchen lab. You'd kill yourself if you did." To refresh you, Kim Jong-nam, the half-brother of Kim Jong-un, the dear third-generation leader of North Korea, he was poisoned in the airport in Kuala Lumpur airport in Malaysia. And it was women were there kind of ambushing him in the terminal. But ZX nerve gas is very serious, and it's a very, very powerful poison. You don't need more than a couple of specks of this stuff in powder or salt-like form to kill someone.
Is this the first evidence that we have that North Korea has that ZX nerve gas in their possession?
Well, we know that North Korea did not sign the chemical weapons treaty.
No.
So therefore, it's.
All right. Can we move on from that? That is really, really rough.
I think Kim Jong-un might get an award this week.
Oh, boy. Hey, it's trigger warnings. It's challenging talk radio. It's radical empathy. And it's the Oscars weekend. And we are giving out awards based on 2 films that we felt were incredibly salient. One network. The other film, yes, It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, what to say about this movie, John?
It's a Wonderful Life is, well, there's a broader context to it. And it's interesting because I have always been powerfully moved by George Bailey character played by Jimmy Stewart. But what I've really been moved by in that character is not the upbeat, ambitious, even the hardworking side of him, but really the deep, dark, depressed side. I have always found that part of the character very appealing, and I learned recently why that is, because Jimmy Stewart was in World War II. He was a fighter pilot, flew many, many, many missions for the entirety of World War II, and apparently was a very successful fighter pilot. And like many others who had 4 years of service or a lot of long service in the war, he came back, kind of worn out spiritually, physically, mentally. He had what we now would call some form of PTSD. When he came back from the war, thought his career was done. Like athletes of that time who served in the war, he thought he had lost the best years of his life, of his creative acting life. And it turns out that Frank Capra really had to talk him into doing the film as a way of getting back in the game and overcoming his fears and his depression. And Lionel Barrymore, of course, who played evil Mr. Potter.
Oh, evil. Whoa. We'll get to that. That's a little much there, buddy.
He spent a lot of time, Lionel Barrymore spent a lot of time on set with Jimmy Stewart talking to him about, about what he experienced in the war and getting back in the game. So now that I understand what, where a lot of Jimmy Stewart's angst and darkness were coming from in that film, they're coming from real experiences, kind of real life method acting. I'm that much more impressed with his performance in the film and with him as a man. He really was an amazing person. Of whom one great part was on screen.
Absolutely.
So it's a wonderful film, and it's a wonderful life. It's a wonderful film, and you have to go beyond what's on the surface. Just the happy, everything is great, everything turns out in the end. You really have to me, to appreciate the film and its value and its relevance as a populist anthem. You really have to explore the dark side of him and of the people in that town and in that story.
What do you think triggered the federal government in 1947 to create a warning about the film? What themes?
It created a warning about this film?
Yes, it did. The federal government released. Yes, it did.
What did it say?
I will get you the exacting language, but I believe it has to center around the bankers. What role do bankers play in It's a Wonderful Life?
Well, the bankers are the people who kind of control the money that builds houses and feeds businesses in and throughout America. And in those days, it was not necessarily the big banks. It was more of the community banks. We don't have a lot of community banks anymore. And in that film, we see Mr. Potter, who owns just about everything in town. And then we see the savings and loan of the Bailey brothers. Mr. Potter, we presume, goes on more fact-based or hard data in making decisions about whom to finance and whom not to finance. And the Baileys tend to go on the good old, I look into his eyes and I see that he has a good soul approach. And that's kind of what's going on. This old myth of I just have a good feeling about you. I don't really think we do that anymore, where bankers, with all the data they have and all the regulations they're required to adhere to, not to mention the governance of banks and all financial institutions. I don't really think we can afford to make, you look like a nice person argument in funding a business or mortgages anymore, unless we're going to do what we did in the Big Short mindset, which is, we're going to take all these mortgages and capitalize them anyway, and then we're going to monetize them and sell them to somebody and something else. Unless you're going to do that. That is the role of bankers. I mean, it is essentially the big banker versus the little banker.
Or as one online review put it, the battle between Home Depot and the mom and pop hardware store? Would you go there?
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, I don't think we don't get the impression that Mr. Potter is. Banking is a very small part, it appears, of Mr. Potter's enterprise.
Okay, here's what you've been hoping for. Here's your main...
Mr. Potter is more like a Japanese conglomerate.
Oh my!
Where they've got banking, they've got manufacturing, they've got cars. That Mr. Potter in Bedford Falls functions much more like a Japanese conglomerate. where he's in a lot of industries at once, and they all feed each other, rather than being a banker. So I would be careful with such analogies. It's more like, it's probably more like Walmart than Home Depot, because Walmart is very international and very multi-industry, versus the place where they make keys. But nonetheless, I will get out of the analogy business.
And into the 1947 FBI memo regarding the film It's a Wonderful Life. Yes, this is a real thing, and you can find it in a few different places on the internet. I'm looking at wisebread.com, who in fact took the original documents and transcribed them into type that is easier to read. Quote, with regard to the picture It's a Wonderful Life, blah, 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 redacted, stated in substance that the film represented rather obvious attempts to discredit bankers by casting Lionel Barrymore as a, quote, Scrooge type, unquote, so that he would be the most hated man in the picture. This, according to sources, is a common trick used by communists. In addition...
this is a content, right? Interesting.
Right. This movie is a piece of communist propaganda, said a 1947 FBI memo. In addition, someone stated that, in their opinion, this picture deliberately maligned the upper class, attempting to show these people who had money were mean and despicable characters. Blah, blah, blah related that if he had made this picture portraying the banker, he would have shown this individual to have been following the rules as laid down by the state bank examiner in connection with making loans. You remember there is a bank examiner. He wants to get home.
Oh, God. He wanted to see his family in Elmira.
I knew you would remember that. That's
yes.
Wonderful. Further, someone stated that the scene wouldn't have, quote, suffered at all in portraying the banker as a man who was protecting funds put in his care by private individuals and adhering to rules governing the loan of that money rather than portraying the part as it was shown. So really, in 1947, the FBI was very concerned with the portrayal of Henry F. Potter as a mean, perhaps even deplorable, old rich man, a Scrooge type, when rather the film could have displayed him as abiding by FEC rules.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he was, but that's not the point. The point is that it's a takeoff on Scrooge, on A Christmas Carol. Read Dickens.
The point is his money, his wealth, his power has made him a warped, frustrated old man. Which is, I don't know of any American that wants to become that. Nobody wants to become that. And yet, after pursuing the American dream, and he's got the finest of everything in town, he is empty and hollow and has nothing to say. So, other thoughts on It's a Wonderful Life?
But you know what's interesting is that Mr. Potter, well, you know, to me, if we go literally in this film,
yes,
Jimmy Stewart, George Bailey, on several occasions in that movie, provides insider information or takes insider information.
Ooh.
So Jimmy Stewart should have been in jail for violating the Securities and Exchange Act. You know, where he tells, who's the Hee-Haw?
Sam Wainwright.
Where he tells Sam Wainwright, you can get this building here to build your factory for a song.
Wait, is that qualifies as insider information? I didn't think so.
Sam Wainwright also says, do you have any money? Well, why don't you invest it in this? That's violation of SEC, of Securities and Exchange Commission.
Oh.
Mr. Potter, while being a good, upstanding banker, it would appear, if we take the spirit and the letter of the law to heart, has violated the Sherman Antitrust Act on God knows how many occasions, because he's a monopolist and he attempts to drive his only competition out of business. So, well, you know, if this is anti-communist screed, if this is pro-communist screed, well, why aren't we talking about Mr. Potter violating the Sherman Antitrust Act? Was Teddy Roosevelt a commie? Teddy Roosevelt was no communist.
And at the very heart, it doesn't matter who's got what money. Mr. Potter is it unethical or immoral when he keeps the money that Uncle Billy lost by sticking it in the newspaper? He keeps it. And that sends the last third of the movie into a tailspin. Is that unethical of Mr. Potter or immoral? Or both?
It's unethical, immoral, and illegal. Because unless he takes that money and fulfills the deposit that goes with it, then he's a thief and he's committing fraud. So yeah, there's a lot of crime or would-be crime in it, including that perpetrated by the good guy, by the hero.
One of us is going to jail, and it's not going to be me.
You bitter old man.
Warped, frustrated old man. All right, so...
No. That's what he says to Uncle Billy. What George Bailey says to Uncle Billy is, one of us going to jail, and it's not going to be me. And then he calls him, he basically calls him a crazy, Alzheimer's-ridden lunatic. Drunk.
That's right. Wow.
And that's just it. See, that's where the Jimmy Stewart character and the real Jimmy Stewart persona really come out. That his darkness and his fear, his realization that he is walking on a tightrope every day of his life between, having the beautiful wife and the great children and the rickety old house and, plunging literally or figuratively into a financial and psychological spiral of gloom, doom, and ultimate death is really great. He gets it. He gets it the whole time. And when he's pushed to the limit, he's willing to sell Uncle Billy out.
Well, wait a minute. I
for a moment. Then he says, I'll just end it.
There's something about the dark side of Stewart's character in It's a Wonderful Life that I think is worth pursuing. You say he's walking a tightrope. I don't know if he ever... I think that he's walking around Bedford Falls knowing that he, unlike his brother and many others, will never even get a chance to walk that tightrope. And that he's going to be stuck, as Potter says, pandering to a bunch of garlic eaters. There in Bedford Falls.
That's why he is. That's why he sees the tightrope.
Yes.
I mean, his brother doesn't. His brother gets to, be in a growing, glass, reasonably moving toward high-tech industry.
Wait a minute. That's it. You're getting confused. Sam Wainwright is the guy that moves to Poughkeepsie and starts a plastics company.
No. I'm talking about his brother. You said his brother.
George's brother, Harry, joins. Signs up. Harry's the little brother. Signs up.
Harry goes to Buffalo into the glass business as a research chemist. Harry went
to war and saves every man on that transport.
Right, but then he came back on the train with his bride, who's the boss's daughter, saying my father, the CEO, wants to get Harry into the research business in a glass company in Buffalo. And Harry is on his way up. Harry has no tightrope to worry about. He's married to the boss's daughter. So
I don't know if it was a glass company, but I do know the scene you're speaking of, and she'll keep him out of Bedford Falls anyway. I think that's the line. Yeah.
Harry gets the Congressional Medal of Honor, but he has already been staked to a job, upwardly mobile job as a research chemist in his father-in-law's manufacturing company. Sounds a lot like Corning Glass, by the way, because it's in Buffalo, but we won't get into that. Sounds like Owens Corning, too. But we won't get into that. Harry's not on any tightrope. Sam Wainwright's not on any tightrope unless he really is violating SEC laws and, he gets caught. George Bailey is constantly on the tightrope. He's trying to put a few bucks away every month to take care of his mother. They keep having babies, 4 kids, can't fix the house up. Donna Reed doesn't work because she's busy with the 4 kids and doing all these great volunteer things around town. He's working late, fighting Potter off at every chance. Potter keeps trying to drive him out of business, tries to buy him to get out of business. And he's constantly on the tightrope, and he knows it.
Hey, let's move on to the awards. Based on these 2 films and the characters they're in, we're going to zip through some awards. We each have nominees. The award will be announced, and then we will announce the nominees, and then we will announce who won. Based on the films It's a Wonderful Life and Network.
And what is the name of our the trophy they're getting? Are we calling it a Triggie?
A Triggie?
Yeah, a Triggie. As in trigger warning.
I don't think we can go back on that now that it's been said. That's great. That's great. Like, let's do the awards related to It's a Wonderful Life first. The uncle.
Yes, welcome.
What's that?
Welcome to the first annual Triggies.
That's right, and the acronym was ARE. What was it? We announced the name of this award show earlier in this program.
Yeah, it was the awards for radical empathy.
Oh, there we go. That's right. So starting off, the Uncle Billy Award. The Uncle Billy Award for Best Use of Misplaced Funds. Now, these awards can be given to someone for their actions over the last year, but also for, if there's somebody in recent history that just simply deserves the nomination, then that can happen.
I nominate the warlords of Afghanistan.
Ooh.
For fining $8 billion and apparently not building a whole lot of wealth.
Yes, and for the Uncle Billy Award for Best Use of Misplaced Funds, I nominate Mad Dog Dick Cheney. And
for what? Oh, you have a joint nominee. Yes.
No, that's it. I nominate him. I mean, It's not like he did that last week or in the last 364, but when it comes to best use of misplaced funds, I don't think anybody deserves that more. John, do you have the envelope? I'm looking around for mine.
No, wait, hold on. I just opened it, and the winner of the Triggie for the Uncle Billy Award for Best Use of Misplaced Funds, and this is going there. We have to manufacture more Triggies. It is going to all of the Afghan warlords.
Oh, my goodness. There we go. Okay, second award that we're going to give out, the Clarence Oddbody Award. AS2 for Best Representation of a Disembodied Spirit.
Well, I don't think there should be any doubt about this one.
Really?
Because the people who mailed in their votes to me were nearly unanimous. But are we awarding the person or persons who represent the disembodied spirit, or are we giving the award to the disembodied spirit itself?
You know, it's as subjective as Best Actor.
Okay. All right. Well, the disembodied spirit is Ronald Reagan, and the representers are every Republican who runs for presidential office, anywhere, anytime, anyplace.
The collectivism behind your nominees is really getting expensive. We got to make a lot of awards. My nominee for the Clarence Oddbody Award for Best Representation of the Disembodied Spirit, AFT President Randy Weingarten, for standing with her until the very last minute, until Bernie showed up, and now she just kind of is following along, and she's not sure exactly where to follow. I think today is probably a difficult day for Randy Weingarten, so she's my nominee for Best Representation of a Disembodied Spirit. The envelope, it's an explosive envelope. Good Lord. Oh my goodness, the winner's Randy Weingarten. Disembodied spirit. Okay, wow. I know.
You know, the Republican presidential candidates are upset about that one.
Now here's one I don't have a nominee for. The Old Man Gower Award for Greatness in the Field of Healthcare.
Oh, I have a nominee.
There's only one nominee.
Well, it's a tie.
Oh.
Because I had two nominees. And again, we have to give the award to more than one person. This award will go jointly to two prominent physicians. One of them is Dr. Ben Carson.
Okay.
Who as a Secretary of Housing to be, is a great neurological surgeon. And the other is to Dr. Tom Cole, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, who is really good at using his connections and contacts in the medical device field to make a lot of money through insider connection, which presumably he's going to use to pay the subsidies for people in whatever replaces Obamacare. So I think we don't need to open the envelope because they have agreed to share the award.
Excellent. Moving on, the Russell Shearman Award for Best Falsehood in a Television Program or Feature Film. Again,
Who is Russell Shearman?
Who is Russell Shearman? I know.
Yeah, I like
Russell Shearman is the engineer who worked on the film It's a Wonderful Life, and in collaboration with Frank Capra, created the new artificial snow that is seen in the scene It's a Wonderful Life when George's lip begins bleeding again. Before that, they had been painting cornflakes. And Russell Shearman, alongside Frank Capra, came up with a new artificial snow. So this is the Russell Shearman Award for Best Falsehood in a Television Program or Feature Film. One nominee, Don Cheeto.
Don Cheeto?
Don Cheeto has been nominated for the Russell Shearman Award.
As in Don Cheeto?
No, Don Cheeto. A.K.A. Donald J. Trump and Puff. You know, that guy.
Oh! Okay. I thought you were talking about Don Cheadle.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, he's the president. You can't have somebody compete against the president.
Oh, so he wins?
Well, yeah.
For Best Falsehood?
Well, if it's a daily award, it's quite possible that Kellyanne Conway gets at least an honorable mention. But for the entire body of work, I think it's safe to say that Don Cheeto gets the award. So if this is for a lifetime if it's a lifetime achievement award, I think definitely he gets it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. Here's a late addition to the awards program, the Sam Wainwright Award for Excellence in Capitalism. I don't need any plastics. And yet, who would win that? The Sam Wainwright Award for Excellence in Capitalism. One nominee. Let's see. Andrew Pudzer.
Oh, Andrew Pudzer, yes, good one. I have nominated, and I'm sorry, I have not nominated. The votes are in, and the nominee who came from my background is Warren Buffett.
Ooh. Wow, these are two good nominees. Andrew Pudzer versus Warren Buffett for the Sam Wainwright Award for Excellence in Capitalism. The envelope.
It's called the Yeehaw. Just remember that. It's the Yeehaw Award.
And the winner, Warren Buffett. Hey, all right.
Wait a minute. My envelope had Andrew Pudzer.
Well, we know who's his.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, I'm sorry. That's the Disembodied Spirit Award. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, we have one. Let's see. Coming up next. You know what? Yeah, the Henry F. Potter Award for Best Nefarious Abuse of an Inherently Unequal System. The Henry F. Potter Award for Best Nefarious Abuse of an Inherently Unequal System.
My nominee, and this is more, it's more onomatopoetic.
Oh.
In the sense that this person not only kind of constantly sounds nefarious when he talks, but actually, to me, looks somewhat like Henry Potter if he had fully gray hair, this person. So Mitch McConnell got the nomination.
Oh! Wow.
So in other words, it has nothing to do with capital or Das Kapital. It has to do with just nefarious use of an inherently unequal system, because Mitch McConnell uses that system pretty well.
Wow. And the nominee here in my envelope, it says Jim Comey.
Oh, that's a really excellent, wow. I'm opening the envelope.
You're opening the envelope. Okay, who will win the Henry F. Potter Award for Best Nefarious Abuse of an Inherently Unequal System? The nominees are Mitch McConnell and Jim Comey. The winner, John.
Ryan, you know what's unfair is the tall guy always wins.
Oh.
6'8" Jim Comey over the rather diminutive, jowly Mitch McConnell. Jim Comey has won, only because he's a whole foot taller.
You just won the best use of the word jowly.
I think if there is anything to describe Mitch McConnell's appearance, it is jowly.
Okay, we're saving the last one for the last, but how about the Diana Christensen Award for Best Channeling of the Popular Rage?
Now, we have jumped, dear listener, to awards named in memory of important figures from the film Network.
That's right. This is all under the heading of the Triggies. That is the Trigger Warnings, Challenging Talk Radio, Radical Empathy annual awards show.
Okay, my nominee.
Yes.
For this, and this is a little tricky. My nominee for the Diana Christensen Award for channeling of popular rage, kind of, is the person who played Diana Christensen in the film Network, who is the great Faye Dunaway, for having a rather expeditious climax in her love scene with really old, wrinkly William Holden, and the whole time talking about marketing projection and lots of quantitative data.
Wow. So Faye Dunaway is nominated for the award.
Faye Dunaway. All I know is I don't know if it would be popular rage or not, but I think a lot of people would have wanted to channel rage with Faye Dunaway.
And the other nominee is
Diana Christensen.
The other nominee for the Diana Christensen Award is noted Jersey girl Kellyanne Conway.
Who actually would have been very good in all facets of that role. If Kellyanne Conway, me Fitzpatrick, were an actress, she would be very, very good in the Diana Christensen role.
True.
Perhaps even as good, if not better, than Faye Dunaway.
Envelope, here we go. And the winner is... Oh, it is Faye Dunaway. Keep trying, Kelly, keep trying.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. That hurts. Let's move on to the Howard Beale Award for Best Voicing of the Popular Rage. Not channeling, but best voicing of the popular rage. John, do you have a nomination?
Well, it depends on it. Yeah, this one's even more subjective than all the other categories because it really depends on how one defines popular.
True.
But I think in this case, the nominee from the left is Keith Olbermann.
Oh.
Because he has always channeled and especially voiced with that righteous indignation that even in his heyday, Ben Affleck did even better than Keith Olbermann. Ben Affleck playing Keith Olbermann does it even better than Keith Olbermann playing Howard Beale. But because Ben Affleck is just an actor.
What happened to your affect? It's Affleck? I've never heard that pronunciation. Affleck?
No, it's Affleck.
Okay.
Affleck. He's a duck. It's Affleck.
But I like Affleck. That's very nice. So we're at the Howard Beale Award. Oh, and my nominee is Sean Spicer. Do you have the envelope on your end, or do I?
No, I have it here.
Who won the Howard Beale Award for Best Voicing? The winner is?
Oh, you're not going to believe it.
Oh, no.
It's the write-in candidate. This is a write-in candidate who won this.
Oh, no.
And the winner is Melissa McCarthy playing Sean Spicer.
Ooh. Wonderful. Oh, that's
the first time in the history of this awards show that a write-in has won, proving that open democracy works.
That is awesome. How about moving on to Vox Populi Award for Best 15 Minutes of Fame. The nomination on this end is Milo. That creep.
Milo, yeah. Well, the nomination on my end was, it was a tie. In my case, the left and right both contributed.
Oh.
And in this case...
It's a tie nomination, so we have three names?
We have three names. In this case, the Vox Populist, or Vice Populistics, as the nominees for this award are called, are people who've had 15 minutes of fame and we're sick of them.
Ooh.
But they keep trying to get more than 15 minutes of fame. And in fact, there were three nominees who came in from the field, from the real America.
Okay.
One was Sarah Palin. The second nominee was Anthony Weiner, and the third was Caitlyn Jenner, who now has no bathroom Caitlyn Jenner feels safe going into, having already gone public with approval of and using bathrooms in Trump Tower. Caitlyn has nowhere to go now. So Caitlyn will be wanting 15 more minutes of fame, at least.
Oh, so who are the nominees again? I got to keep track here.
Sarah Palin.
Palin.
Anthony Weiner and Caitlyn Jenner.
Okay, and this is for the Vox Populi Award.
And Milo.
Right, the Vox Populi Award for Best 15 Minutes of Fame. And is it Sarah Palin, Anthony Weiner, Caitlyn Jenner, or Milo? And the envelope?
You have the envelope now.
I have it. I have it here, and it's... Oh! Aw! It's Anthony Weiner, but he's actually accepting the award on behalf of both he and his wife. Ex-wife.
Yes. Well, they're not ex-wife, but...
If we had more time on this program, we would allow Anthony Weiner, a few more minutes of fame for his acceptance speech, but unfortunately we don't have time. Moving on to the Arthur Jensen Award.
But Anthony Weiner apparently is listening because he just sent me an Instagram, but I really can't share the contents of it.
That's good. Instagram doesn't make good radio. The Arthur Jensen Award for Most Likely to Be Illuminati. My nomination is for Rex Tillerson.
Yeah, it's amazing how great minds think alike. Because I think Rex Tillerson is an excellent choice for that award.
Congratulations, Mr. Tillerson, on your first Triggie. These are the Trigger Warnings Challenging Talk Radio annual awards, and we only have a few more. And these are all named after either characters in the film Network or the film It's a Wonderful Life. Next, we have the Great Ahmet Khan Award for Best Use of Violence in a Television Program or Feature Film.
And my nominee is it's not an individual award. It is again an award to an entire production team.
Oh, my nominee is as well, so I can't wait to see what you say.
Oh, good. So this production team's work over 7 years not only promoted and demonstrated and showed in some graphic detail, in some instances, outstanding examples of violence, but did so in a way that not only was illegal in violation of the Geneva Conventions and American policy, but was so real and so believable that the commandant at West Point had to respond to several inquiries of cadets, the best and the brightest in the American military schools, saying, no, the depiction of violence on this show is not legal, it is not accurate, it is not effective, it is not constitutional. Other than that, it's just fine. So the award, the nominee, goes to the entire production team of the Fox television show 24, which keeps coming back in various forms: a feature-length film, a new program recently featuring a black version of Jack Bauer. But 24 for that depiction of violence, waterboarding, etc. Is hereby nominated for the first annual Triggie for excessive and well-portrayed violence in television programming film.
Right. Officially, this is the Great Ahmet Khan Award for Best Use of Violence in a Television Program or Film.
AKA the Great Ahmet Khan Award.
Thank you. And your nomination is for the production staff of 24. My nomination is for the expeditious work done this week by the Army Corps of Engineers. They made short order out of all of that Dakota Access Pipeline resistance. So, and the winner of the Great Ahmet Khan Award... Oh, I'm sorry. Fox fails. It is the Army Corps of Engineers. Best use of violence in a television program or film.
That's because the awards committee of the Triggies is biased against anything with the word Fox in it.
I believe that. Well, let's see. We only have 2 more awards to give out. The next one is the Christine Chubbuck Memorial Award for Excellence in Broadcasting. John, who was Christine Chubbuck?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Was she? I have no idea.
She was the Florida broadcaster that committed suicide live on her television news program that would inspire Patty Chayefsky to write the Film Network.
I did not know that.
Yes, real person. So the Christine Chubbuck Memorial Award for Excellence in Broadcasting, I have 2 nominees. 1, Rachel Maddow, and 2, Dan Rather for coming out of his shell and starting some sort of online something.
So this is you're really offering this for true excellence.
Yeah. EIB, buddy.
My,
You know what I mean.
my nominee was the the former Pennsylvania Secretary of State who blew his brains out on television in the 1980s when he was under indictment for some horrific government ethics crime.
And that person's
Because he
name?
would, well, he's now a disembodied spirit.
Oh.
So he actually was up for nominations in 2 categories.
Okay, and the envelope? The envelope?
I think you have the envelope.
I think
for
I
this
have
one.
the envelope, and I think the winner of the first annual Christine Chubbuck Memorial Award for Excellence in Broadcasting, it's Rachel Maddow. All right. Oh, man.
No, if you informed Rachel Maddow of this and sent her this program,
I know.
she actually might be really interested. Because, yeah.
All right, well, here's the big award. Here's the big one. The big one. We saved it for the end. It's the Bailey Prize, the George Bailey Prize. Awarded to an individual whose idealism has glistened in the face of capitalist swine. Once again, the Bailey Prize, named after George Bailey, for lifetime achievement, even. In the field of glistening idealism in the face of capitalist swine. And my nominee, it should be glaringly obvious to you who my nominee for this would be.
Yeah, this is a setup award. This is like a special award they give to people who can't win a regular award. They did this one year. At the Academy Awards. I think it was Frederick March, because they were afraid he was never going to win a real award, so they gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award, and then he won the Best Actor Award, and they had to bring him out a second time. But go ahead.
My nominee for the Bailey Prize for glistening idealism in the face of capitalist swine goes to my Senator, Bernie Sanders. Well, I nominate him. Do you have a nomination?
Yes, I do. My nomination is George Bailey.
Oh!
For refusing the $50,000 a year salary from Mr. Potter and doing it with grace and verve and righteous indignation and continuing to get by on $25 a week. Bernie Sanders, for all of his honorable activities, has been feeding off the public trough for 35 years and makes, what does a senator make, $175,000 a year?
Mm.
I nominate George Bailey himself on the presumption that no one, unless it's another Jimmy Stewart character, the great Senator Jefferson Smith, could match. So Jimmy Stewart is the nominee because he portrayed 2 characters who did this in 2 of the most memorable roles of American movie history. And Bernie Sanders, great man though he is still, with his salary and his assets, in the top 1, maybe 2%.
I'm already applauding that Jimmy Stewart, or at least the estate of, has won the first annual Bailey Prize for glistening idealism in the face of capitalist swine. I agree. I agree. There's something about Jimmy Stewart that just radiates. Absolutely radiates. Well, there it is.
And possibly Jimmy Stewart's greatest moment on television was in his later years, maybe his later months, when he made an appearance on The Tonight Show and read, teary-eyed, a poem he had written about his golden retriever who had recently passed.
That's right.
Look it up. He cried. He cried like a baby on The Tonight Show over his dog.
So tune in.
Yes.
Tune in.
And if that isn't populism, I don't know what the hell is.
That's true. That's true. That is true populism. Tune in 1 year from today, and we'll do more on the eve of the Academy Awards, the Triggies, the Trigger Warnings Challenging Talk Radio, Radical Empathy at its core, film award shows. Will we use these same awards next year? Will we have new awards? I don't know.
Well, may we just make one comment, given the relevance of the Triggies?
Okay, but you better go quick, because I have a quiz for you. We have to end with the quiz.
Oh, okay, it has to be quick. Will the Academy honor white breadness and itself by awarding, as all indications appear it will, La La Land, which many of us feel was at best a mediocre film.
Oh my goodness! We don't.
Or will it, in the spirit of true patriotism and history and relevance, forget that it's Black History Month, award easily the most inspirational, moving, and true story of the year to the movie about Black women and NASA. Hidden Figures. Will it be socially relevant and not politically correct, but justifiably so, for an incredible film about three historical figures we should be learning about in school, not for Black History Month, but for American History Year? Or will it pat itself on the back?
It's going to pat itself on the back.
Yeah, of course it is.
Oh, okay. All right, it's time for the quiz. It's time for the John. It's time for the quiz.
Okay.
This week's quiz draws on a lot of different sources, and we start here. As you know, Congress has been in recess. A member of Marco Rubio's staff explained that the senator's absence from any town halls during this congressional recess was because protesters and activists were using an online manual published by a group named Indivisible. According to the Orlando Weekly, which of these is an actual quote from that manual? A, liberate the conversation by any means necessary. B, be respectful, but only to the point you believe your elected officials have earned your respect. C, be rational, but nevertheless persist and demand accountability. Or D, be polite, but persistent and demand real answers.
That's a really good question. I would ask, it's the last one.
It is the last one. Question 2. Which former Clinton staffer joined the Washington Post this week? Was it A, Huma, B, Robbie Mook, C, John Podesta, or D, Jennifer Palmieri?
Somebody actually is working for the Washington Post?
Which former Clinton staffer joined the Washington Post this week? Huma, Robbie, John, or Jennifer?
Well, the only one that makes sense is Podesta, but I don't think it is Podesta.
Right, it is Podesta, who said this long time ago, quote, I've always been an entrepreneur, but it's never been about the money. I like a challenge. The harder, the better. A, Dean Martin. B, Dean Rusk. C. Howard Dean, or D. Howard the Duck?
Howard Dean.
No, Terry McAuliffe. Who said?
No, you can't do that.
Who said?
You have to give me
No, I don't. I'm sorry. Let's keep going. Who said this? Also a long time ago. Quote, I wake up every morning singing the Star-Spangled Banner. Was that A, Dean Martin, B, Tom Ridge, C, Francis Scott Key, or D, Terry McAuliffe?
Christopher Walken in the movie where he wakes up nothing like the smell of napalm.
No, it's Terry McAuliffe.
Terry McAuliffe. No, it was clearly a Terry McAuliffe. Yeah.
Who said this? Not too long ago. Quote, look, freedom is an overwhelming American notion. The idea that we want to see the world, the peoples of the world free, is something that all of us subscribe to. Was that A, Nancy Pelosi, B, Don Cheeto, C, Joltin' Joe Biden, or D, Hillary Rodham Clinton?
Hillary Rodham Clinton.
No, Don Cheeto. Which cabinet member earned his Eagle Scout badge in 1965? Was it A, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, B, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, C, Tom Price, Health and Human Services Secretary, or D, John Kelly, Secretary of Homeland Security?
By the way, my award was Tom Price, not Tom Cole. I got the times mixed up. Rex Tillerson.
That is correct, Rex Tillerson. Which cabinet member served as the student representative to the economics department during their undergraduate years? Was that A, Grand Poobah Don Cheeto, B, Grand Master Steve Bannon, C, number one comrade Rex Tillerson, or D, longtime McConnell sidekick Elaine Chao?
I hope it's Elaine Chao.
It is Elaine Chao. Congratulations.
Oh, my heart is warmed.
Complete this popular song.
The cockles in my heart are warm. Go ahead.
Complete this popular song lyric. Quote, all my exes live in Texas. That's why I, A, drink these cans of Genesee, B, hang my hat in Tennessee, or C, live in a van down by the river. Thank you. Yes, that's very nice.
Right.
According to
George Strait. Yes.
I think that was George Strait. According to the Houston Chronicle this week, Don Cheeto's approval ratings are up in the Lone Star State. What is the approval rating down there where the, quote, eyes are upon you all the livelong day? Is it A, 37% approval, B, 46% approval, C, 53% approval, but that does not include Austin, or D, 28% approval, but that does include Austin?
No, it's. I think he's at 53 in Texas.
Actually, it's 46% in Texas. According to
that was my second one.
According to Yes Magazine, how many of Texas's 38 congressional representatives have gone on record as supporting Don Cheeto's wall as of December 2016? Is it 0, 3, 12, but 2 are undecided, 0, but this could be fake, or 0, but anything could be fake?
3.
No, the answer is 0. As of December. According to a news report...
Okay, I hope...
What?
I hope we're wrapping up now.
Yes, I have a few more questions for you. I'll only give you the good ones. I'll give you 3 more. Who did Matt Drudge call a shadow president this week? Was it A, Steve Bannon, B, Mike Pence, C, John McCain, or D, Barack Obama?
What was the term?
A shadow president.
A shadow president, Steve Bannon.
No, John McCain. This week, a CBS affiliate in Georgia did a story about a new militia that's formed to protect Second Amendment rights. The militia's name is, quote, 3% Security. How did they come up with that name? A, roughly 3% of Georgia voted for a third party in 2016. B, 3% of Americans believe gun ownership should be outlawed, according to a 2012 Gallup poll. C, it's believed that only 3% of colonists fought against King George's rule. Or D, the name 3% Security was fiction created by the CBS affiliate.
It is A.
No, it is C. It is believed that only 3% of colonists fought against King George. New independent analysis kept by the National UFO Sighting Center was released this week. The study found that UFO sightings have consistently spiked on what holiday, but only since 2009? Is it Halloween, Christmas Day, Independence Day, or Labor Day?
It's got to be Halloween.
No, it's the 4th of July. What explains, two more questions, what explains this spike in UFO sightings on the 4th of July? Is it A, increased availability of recreational cannabis due to failed federal drug policy, thanks Ronald Reagan? B, increased availability of potent pharmaceuticals and psychotropics, that, along with one beer at a backyard barbecue, might have one seeing things, thanks Obama? C, increased activity of the high-frequency active oral research program, or HARP, in Alaska during that season? Or D, increased use of lead and mercury in Chinese-made fireworks leading to toxicity and hallucinations?
Oh, I like that one. D.
The answer's D?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have a correct answer here. And finally, which of Trump's cabinet appointees claims to have seen a UFO while on a camping trip in their teens? Was it A, Betsy DeVos, B, Rex Tillerson, C, Elaine Chao, or D, Don Cheeto himself?
Well, he's technically not in the cabinet, so I think he has to be ruled out. Betsy DeVos definitely looks like somebody who's seen aliens.
The answer is none of them. None of them have admitted to seeing a space alien.
Wow. Well, I feel duped.
Hey, John, it's been a wonderful program. We've handed out awards. It's been award-winning. We've had a blast. It's Trigger Warnings, challenging talk radio, empathy at its core. We'll be back very soon as we need to. John's now...
There are screaming children in the broadcast.
There are screaming children. Where are you, at a bowling alley?
I'm in a bowling alley, yes.
Excellent.
There are screaming children.
All right, we'll see you next week, folks. Thanks again.
And congratulations, all Triggie winners.